today for our VITA METER episode, the third episode, we are actually covering hummus. And the hummus that I want to talk about today is the Ithaca brand. So if you are a client, if you've worked with me, if you've been following my social media, you probably know I'm a huge fan of this brand. I discovered them a few months ago and just became obsessed with them. I am a big fan of hummus in general, and although I know I could make my own, I don't have a food processor, which I know is unbelievable. It broke a while ago and I never just got another one, and so I don't have one to make my own, but when I do get a new one, I probably will be making my own because it's so easy to make. So aside from making your own hummus at home with fresh, real ingredients, I have found this Ithaca brand, okay? Before this brand, I was buying like Cedars, and I was buying the Kava brand, which is not as readily available as the Cedars, but one thing I do want to notate, the Cedars brand, and it's not a bad brand at all, right? But when I found the Ithaca brand and I realized the difference, just tweaking little bits here and there, it is superior to Cedars, okay? And I'm going to explain why now. So both brands start with chickpeas as the first ingredient, water, of course, and then both brands have sunflower oil in them. Now, the Ithaca brand has sunflower and olive oil, which is nice that they kind of add in that other oil in there. You know, if you're making hummus at home in a food processor, you're most likely adding olive oil, right? So that's a nice addition to the Ithaca versus the Cedars. Tahini, which is sesame, right? They add that, perfect. Both of them have that. And then cold pressed lemon juice. Now this is where it starts kind of veering a little bit different from the Cedars brand to the Ithaca. Cold pressed lemon juice. So lemons, as you guys know, lemons, limes, grapefruit, oranges, any kind of citrus, right, is a naturally occurring form of citric acid. And citric acid is really good for the body for a lot of different reasons, right? Citric acid naturally occurring from these vegetables or these fruits it's basically helping to preserve what you're adding it to. So, you know, when you hear people say squeeze lemon juice on fruit so it doesn't brown as easily, that's one of the reasons, right? So they've added cold pressed lemon juice, which is really nice. Cold pressed meaning it's not been heated, so the structure of the juice stays intact. Conversely, the Cedars brand, they add citric acid, okay? Now, there's no citric acid in the Ithaca brand because they've added this fresh cold pressed lemon juice. The Cedars brand went probably, I don't know if it was a cheaper route or why they do it, but they add citric acid. And I do want to discuss citric acid, but I'm going to do it after I finish the ingredient list. So anyway, going back, that's one difference. Then this continues on with fresh garlic. Cedars brand also has that. Salt, vinegar, they also have that in Cedars, and they add a crushed red pepper, right? But overall, with the Cedars brand, the two ingredients that are different versus the Ithaca is the citric acid and the guar gum. They have guar gum as their last ingredient in their hummus. So going back now to these two preservatives, right? It's not that citric acid is like horrible necessarily. It's not that guar gum is horrible necessarily. However, if we can buy a food that's more real, you know, even though it's processed, even though we're buying it pre-made, but if we can purchase it in a better form, meaning it's closer to if we were actually making it in our own kitchen, why not? That's a no-brainer. Of course we're going to do that. So I give Ithaca hummus from like my VITA METER rating of a 1 to a 10. I mean, it's like a solid 9.5. It's very close to a 10. It's similar to the American flatbread pizza that I rated on my first episode. It's an amazing brand. They have like usually three or four flavors in the store at Whole Foods where they sell predominantly. But if you go onto their website, they actually have even more flavors. And I know Central Market also carries them if you're in the Dallas area. And they have the Buffalo Ranch one that a lot of people just really love. But you can only get that one online. So anyway, I encourage you to check them out online. They're amazing. I wish Costco would carry them in bulk, because that would be amazing. So if you're watching Costco for some reason, please carry this brand. But the other thing that I just want to briefly touch on before we finish the session is the citric acid and the guar gum, and like, what the heck are these and why are they in everything, right? Citric acid is prevalent in pretty much any kind of food that needs preservative. So like I said, you get it naturally from lemons, limes, you know, citric type of fruits, but you can also get it in the man-made version. And unfortunately, most of what you're seeing when you're looking at a food ingredient list is from the man-made version, okay? So man-made version, they start with this mold, okay? It's a type of black mold that they kind of feed, usually corn or beet sugar, and over the course of a couple weeks, it basically breaks down, and the byproduct is citric acid, okay? And that's usually the man-made version of citric acid. So, you know, you ask, okay, why is that bad? I mean, it could be bad if you're a person that's highly sensitive to mold, because the remnants of how it started and then going into the food possibly could bother your stomach or bother you. So that would be one reason. Second reason is I'm just a firm believer in always trying to use things in their whole form and their natural form. So I personally feel better about eating something that has fresh cold pressed lemon juice in it as the preservative versus the man-made version of it, okay? And you know, this is a big thing with food companies, and it's like what I wonder every time I'm going through the grocery store is like, it always comes down to cost, always come down, you know, to the dollar. And so obviously it must be cheaper, right, to make citric acid from this mold. It must be cheaper, because why else would companies do this? I mean, why wouldn't they just use fresh lemon juice or lime juice in their stuff? Now the guar gum is another one that I think has gotten a lot of controversy. Gums in general in foods are pretty plentiful. They can add flavor, they can add thickening, things like that. Guar gum is kind of one that, you know, is on the fence for me. It's in a lot of stuff. I'm a firm believer that we're not going to be able to maybe avoid it completely, especially if you're like drinking coconut milk or almond milk and things like that. So I just encourage people to just monitor your intake of that. If you're eating mostly whole foods diet, meaning unprocessed food, your fruits, vegetables, meats, nuts, things like that, most of your day is not composed of ingesting a whole lot of gums and preservatives. So maybe in your smoothie, if you're having your coconut milk and it has that, not so much of a big deal, right? But it just becomes a big deal when you're eating a lot of products with that in it. It can cause some stomach irritability in people and some sort of like sensitivities and reactions. So just something to look out for. But again, I would feel much better for myself and for feeding my loved ones, giving them this Ithaca hummus, right? If I had to choose between the Cedars and the Ithaca, I'm gonna feel better about that one, because it's a cleaner brand. It's just more like I made it myself, even though I didn't. And yeah, so that's my that's my soapbox for today, folks. But I hope you enjoyed this. As always, it'll be uploaded to my YouTube channel, La Dolce Vita Nutrition and Breathwork. And please go on there. Feel free to comment, to like it, follow my channel if you haven't already. And I will continue doing these videos. So if you guys have any questions, reach out to me, comment on the YouTube channel, and I look forward to doing another one for you soon. Okay? You guys have a great Monday. Bye.